Hey, this is Mathias Nygård from Turisas. You're watching Search and Destroy.
Come on! A name uttered with fear, no smile, no tears. They'll crush.
Yeah, it's a bit corny, kind of heavy metal cliche, really. It was a question to title it kind of very straightforward, as Battle Metal our debut was, or to make something kind of more mysterious, maybe like the Varangian Way. And in the end, it just felt that Stand Up and Fight was the only title that really stood up for all the songs on the album in a good way. I mean, it sounds like a fucking Manowar album, I know, but it's actually more. It's not, you know, an album title about running around in the forest with swords and stuff. It's more about like taking a stand in the modern day world and you know, standing up for what you believe in, basically. And that's kind of a central theme on a lot of songs on the album, I guess. So it sort of seemed to fit that concept. I don't think you can really kind of see or tell your breakthrough when you're in the circle of it. I mean, even if it would be very successful, it still feels like, yeah, we worked for what? This is our 14th year, so we've been around for a while, kind of doing the same thing we do, and good things happen. First time in Mexico, I mean, you asked me like 10 years ago, I would never have even thought I would be sitting here and doing this interview in Mexico and everything, but it goes forward step by step, and hard work kind of pays off. So I don't know if it's probably very hard in the midst of it to sort of realize that something big is happening. It kind of all seems very natural, and I think that's a sort of positive thing, that we've never been the band that has kind of exploded huge in one night, but kind of gradually grown and toured a lot and did a lot of shows, and eventually it pays off, so that's great.
My warriors, soldiers.
Well, I also produced the Varangian Way by myself, and it was not that we had some sort of principal idea that we couldn't use an outside producer. We were actually negotiating it and thinking about it for quite a long time before starting out with the record, but I think the closer it got, it just started feeling like, why kind of hire in someone from the outside, and then we would have needed to use so much time to brief in someone, because it's pretty big as a record. We used like more than 10 months only recording it and doing all the parts. There's so many layers and everything happening, so it would have been very difficult for me to sort of explain this whole idea totally to someone else, so he would be on the ball from the first day on. And then just having someone who jumps in and doesn't have a clue for the first 2 months doesn't make a lot of sense either. So yeah, it just turned out that, you know, if you have a kind of very clear vision of what you want to do, there was really no need for it. But it's not like we had any sort of must that we can't use someone from the outside. Maybe on the next record, who knows, we'll, you know, go for. Well, it was basically being a part of everything that was done on the album. From the first drum hits till the last mixing or mastering parts we did. So it was being involved in basically everything. But I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, of course it's very draining if you have to be sort of use so much energy on something. At some point it starts feeling a bit like, you know, you lose the plot a bit, what you're actually doing. But I don't know, in a way, we're not the kind of band that just sort of goes into the studio and someone does something and the other one does something and somehow magically it comes together. It's more like, it's pretty planned from the beginning that this is how it should be and this is how I want it, and then we sort of strive to do it that way. So yeah, for my part it was like being involved in every single step of the production, basically. Well, I would be lying not saying that there was no kind of outside pressure on the record. Of course there was, and taking like a lot of time in between, it kind of adds up when you have like 4 years and you know that people are looking forward to your next record. But it's not that any of it really cut through on the sort of the decisions or anything we did on the album in the end, because it's still it's different than the Varangian Way. It's not like we wanted to repeat the same album over again. We wanted to make something new that sounds interesting to ourselves, and of course there's always the risk that someone who really loved your previous record is going to be disappointed because it's not a copy of it, obviously. And but still, to me, it's like the only way to go is like just making what you yourself feel like the right thing, and not kind of listening not what your management thinks the right thing, not what your record label would want to hear, not even what your fans would want to hear. It's more about you make what you want to do and hope that when your fans hear it, they will be like, wow, I could never have asked for this, but I actually like it very much. So that's like the kind of ultimate situation to be in if it works out that way. It's very hard to sort of judge your own album from because I've been so into it for the last 2-3 years, only like working on it. So it's very hard to step out of that and kind of look at it and analyze or be, you know, objective about it in any way. But I guess it's a bit more compressed. Like there's songs that are tighter, not so many sort of C and D and F parts in them, but it's more like kind of compressing the ideas down to songs that the structures are probably a bit more simple in a way, and make it more straightforward. Then again, a lot of the solutions we ended up doing are far from being simple or anything, so it's not, you know, it's kind of best of both sides. It's not like it was intentionally done, it just sort of happened that way, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's also songs on the album that are very sort of more complex in the structure, so it's not like we wrote a record of 9 pop songs or anything. It's still pretty multi-layered and spread out in the way. But I guess the Varangian Way was kind of a very conceptual album with a lot of sort of kind of big songs and very sort of complex songs in structure-wise, and this is more kind of to the core. We recorded in Finland, but we didn't do it as one big orchestra playing at one time. But we had like the strings on a different day, and then we had the horns coming on a different day. So it was still a sort of studio puzzle in that way. We did it in Helsinki in a different studio called E-Studio, and we used probably like 4 or 5 different studios. The main one was in Hämeenlinna, where we are from, which is like an hour north from Helsinki, where we recorded also the Varangian Way. So it was kind of an easy solution to use the same studio, which you are very used to, and we can kind of hang out there, and you know, the guy who runs it can go home, and we can still sort of keep on working throughout the night or whatever. So that was kind of easy. The orchestra was obviously done in a bigger studio with more ambience and kind of more room into it, and then we compiled it all in Sweden at Fascination Street with Jens Bogren, who's also done the recent Opeth records and Symphony X and bands like that. So he mixed the record, and that was actually the first time when we actually got all the pieces of the puzzle together in one studio and one listening project at one time. It was pretty cool to hear it for the first time. I don't know if I really had the time or the energy for it, you know. It would be interesting, yes, because you would. Now I'm producing my own songs, so it's kind of different than to look into something that someone else has done and working with others. In this band, eventually it kind of goes there. I push my own will through in the end. But would you be working with a different setup, different project, different team of people? maybe you'd have to sort of, of course we are still a democratic group and everyone has their say, but it's like I've grown used to my own way of doing things, and then I would probably need to adapt to a different model, maybe working with other people. I'm totally up for it, but it's very hard to see how it would happen realistically, unless it would be like a 3-4 week short project, but not like 2 years projects like this, because it's still, I love doing my own band than other people's bands more.
Just man grew louder and louder.
I just have to say that we are really, really looking forward to tonight. First time in Mexico. Unfortunately, it's only one show. We would love to do several shows. But I hope that this will, kind of give a good sort of first impression to promoters, to fans, to the band, everyone, booking agents. And hopefully that will be able to bring us back later, maybe even this year or something, to do kind of a bit more, bigger tour, more dates, maybe going to other places in South America and so on. That would be very interesting. But no, we are totally looking forward to it. It's really exciting to play in a new country for the first time.
Search and destroy.